Yes.
Do you have any green tea?
I'll get an iced coffee.
The word that I like to use about anything related to the inner life is it's delicate.
Listening to you talk is a treat in itself. Now I don't want to think about it.
What's a sustainable solution?
I don't know. That's what I'm here asking you. Isn't that pushing myself into more darkness? How would I know?
We know.
You're a genius.
I'm trying to heal my own pain.
Those are nice glasses.
We're very serious people.
Can I get one more coffee, please? Floating in pain.
Wallowing in it.
You're in New York, huh? And it's so opposite and so distinct.
I love you even more.
Have you seen Harry Potter? You will
Like,
never
we're
win
gonna
this.
do just like-
Most basic people's favorite word is basically. You would still not be making mistakes.
It
Yeah? Fiery. I like that. Even entertaining this conversation is too much for me.
Oh my god.
But here is something I'll tell you. I was in India through December and January, and I had begun to feel tremors. And I don't mean literal tremors, I mean like psychological tremors. Slightly before I'd been there too. But as soon as I got there, and suddenly the shackles of I must do X for school and Y for this were kind of removed and love could flow in from my parents and people around me, I was hit by pain. And that pain appeared in the form of some kind of anxiety. It's almost like a spiral. It's like, okay, this is the problem, I'm thinking about it. 5 minutes later into thinking about it, I realized, no, I'm deeper in the problem. Now I don't want to think about it, but I'm thinking about that and I'm deeper into the problem.
Yeah.
And the anxiety keeps just piling on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's such a fine line.
It's so tricky when you're going through that.
So it's the word that I like to use about anything related to the inner life is it's delicate. Like there has to be a delicacy in how you move because it's so subtle.
What I felt missing was exactly that, was some kind of balance. It almost felt like I was tilting in one direction. And that one direction, I think it was pressure about growing up, about figuring shit out. Like it was almost this rude awakening that I'm on the other side of my 20s and I still have XYZ, ABC things to figure out, right? And I found all these concerns begin with a legitimate question in mind, but eventually transform into something far more deadly. Like you will probably have a moment where you're unhappy about not doing well at life, whether that be school, whether that be your job, whether that be your romantic life, so on and so forth. You're just not doing well. And that's a genuine concern. You could do something about it. But if it's left to marinate and sit around, it starts stinking up your headspace. It starts like polluting the way you think about shit. And the only escape I could find, which I think is still temporary, was work. I was like, work harder. Figure more shit out, get to it. Leave the emptiness behind. I think it's a temporary fix. That's my guess. That
So
at some
what-
point it'll come back.
What's a sustainable solution then?
I
in
don't
your
know. That's
eyes?
what I'm here asking you.
I mean, there are so many things that I think. I love New York City. I love New York City in the spring and summer. Let's let this.
Everybody needs to hear that music in case someone's missing out. Everybody needs to hear that music.
I think that there are a series of things that people can do when they're faced with a really legitimate problem. You know, one which might feel counterintuitive is to turn towards it. Turn towards the pain that you're in, the suffering that you're in. Do not turn away. Turn towards it to the degree that you can. There's no reward for pushing yourself past your threshold for emotional discomfort. That will only cause serious damage, internally, externally. There's no reward for pushing past.
What does it mean to turn towards my pain?
Acknowledge that right now this condition of my life is suffering. In whatever area it is, in multiple areas, acknowledge this is suffering. This is the texture of suffering right now. This grief, this loss, this confusion, this loneliness, whatever it is, this is suffering. And really become familiar with what that feels like because that's the momentum to enact transformation.
Isn't that pushing myself into more darkness?
No, not if you do it skillfully. I'm not saying ruminate. So this is why the other steps are necessary, but the first step is to turn towards your suffering.
To acknowledge.
Acknowledge that the condition that you're in is one that is bringing about experiences of suffering. And then from there, it's really important to be clear about what you do not want. So that is really important. So often we're so focused, what do we want, what do we want? What do you not want? When I first started Colombia, oh my God, I was in such a bad place in my life. It was like rock bottom, like just struggling with money and with purpose and with relationship. Just every aspect of my life, it was like zero, like rock bottom. And that was the most fertile territory for expansion because I was so clear I never want to be here again. I never want to be in X amount of money in debt. I never want to be this way in my romantic relationship, nor receive someone in this way in my romantic relationship. I never want to be forced to move to a place that I don't want to live. I never want to be so tightly held against like the longing of my heart. Never. And that in and of itself was enough momentum to be like, how do I make sure that I'm never in this pain again because it's so painful? So in addition to that, in addition to acknowledging that I was in suffering and being very clear about what I did not want, I started to trust what I did want. Okay, so if this isn't what I want,
it's the same fucking guy.
It's the same car.
It's the same fucking guy.
Saturday in New York.
Yeah, well.
So I would say from there, be really clear about what you don't want and allow that to guide you to what you do want. You don't need to know the entire picture, or you don't need to have a storyline crafted of what it means to be joyful, but even if it is something as simple as having a really nice coffee in the morning, or having a really good conversation with a friend, or a dinner once a week with a loved one, then from there, find sources of comfort and joy that can allow you to be balanced and experience just levity in the midst of the suffering that you're in.
Dude.
And that will start to drive you to what you do want. And then driving to what you do want, you begin to access this wisdom within you that shows you what is possible. Then, and only once you start to attain that understanding, your sole practice is to do everything in your power to remain connected to that wisdom and move in your life from that source of intelligence.
Okay, so the first step is I acknowledge, which is sort of having a conversation with myself and accepting my situation, understanding that this is the texture of suffering and pain and this is what hurts, and it does. Like, I cannot just do away with that with the next cigarette or like with whatever next XYZ that I can use, right? The second step you said is knowing what you don't want. And I think, I swear to God, I've come up with that thought in a different context, where I feel like when people say, hey, what should I do with my life in terms of a career? You know, people don't understand what they want to do. I say that's so natural. You can only be sure of what you do not want to do. And in that process of elimination, arrive at something that is palatable to you. That's something, okay, you know what, this I can do. This I can probably make work. So the second thing is knowing what you don't want to do. The third thing, it seems like you're saying, is from somewhere deep within you, there is going to be an inclination towards things that bring you joy.
Yes, that is true. But the reasoning behind that is when we're suffering, we're not at our baseline. We're beneath that. So once you've acknowledged I'm suffering, and then you've become clear about what you don't want, where you don't want to be, what you don't want to experience, allow yourself to find sources of regulation, of comfort, of joy that modulate the experience so you can return back to some degree of baseline.
Right.
I don't expect
How would
you
I
to,
know what these experiences are?
we know. We intuitively, even if it's one thing, there are moments in life when we're like, oh, when I did that, that felt really good. Or I had this conversation with this friend, speaking to a friend in this way feels really good.
But here's the thing, okay, when I can clearly visualize myself suffering through those anxiety situations back in December, and I knew, like, say for instance, hanging out with my friends made me feel joy. Or maybe I'm wrong, it made me feel happy, you know, which is maybe different from joy. But every time I'd be done doing that, I would return back to the same, like, psychological tremor, like feeling like shit's not making sense, things are not going my way, I don't know what to do, what is my next step, will I be able to do it? Like, all those questions would suddenly appear as soon as I was done.
And that's where the aspiration comes in. That's what it means to then connect with the parts of you that start to get a sense of what you do want. So, for example, using this context of having a really bad experience of anxiety, meaning that it's disruptive, it feels paralyzing, and then having dinner with your friends, what does it feel like to be that Prakhar for just a moment that is alleviated from his concerns of the anxious mind? Connect to that Prakhar, because that's the Prakhar that's going to show you what's possible. It doesn't matter if 98% of the day you're there.
You're a genius, straight up.
Connect to that Prakhar. No, I've just had a lot of pain. To be frank,
it's just pain, yeah.
this is not my first rodeo trying to heal my own pain. Okay, so
It's basically me talking to myself.
enough
Right.
pain and heartbreak in life, you're gonna be like, bring it on, I've got this. Like that's, I mean, it's the
It
upside
toughens
of
you up. It toughens you up, you're
It
right.
toughens you up, and then it also quite quickly, you just don't. For me, it's like I just feel like I am very resilient because at this point I'm like, all right, let's get the toolkit out, let's do this. Like I know that it's gonna be okay, and I know that it's gonna be a process, but it's okay because I know how to handle myself through it.
So many people walk around being so afraid of finding themselves in a painful situation that like they don't have a toolkit. They can't pull out their Batman belt of tools and just start throwing shit around to make things work. Maybe you have like a Pandora's box that you can just open that probably comes from experience, probably comes from your multiple adventures into contemplative practices and wellness and so on and so forth. You're free, please. Yeah. Those are nice glasses.
Oh,
Right?
love the song. Yeah.
What song is that?
I think it's a Fleetwood Mac song, Albatross. One of the best bands ever. But anyway,
Yeah. So from there, once I know what I don't want to do and I keep doing XYZ ABC, I start to feel like, oh, this is the Prakhar I want, or this is the Prakhar that is normal, that's at his baseline. And then I start finding ways to be that Prakhar.
you start finding ways to, you basically create the conditions for more of that.
Right.
So the first step was acknowledging, like, oh, this is suffering. The third step is, oh, this is freedom. This is peace. Even if it's for 90 seconds of your day, this is what it means to not be so burdened by the confines of my mind. Whew, that's enough. A glimpse is enough.
Right.
To know that it exists. Even if I don't know how to get there, I don't know how to stay there, I know it's there.
Right.
And my job now is to trust the wisdom within me that does know how to get there. How can I surround myself with people who allow me to be present? How can I choose to participate in activities that activate my senses and transition my attention out of my mind and into what's happening in this moment? So just small practical ways of whatever it is that you're trying to cultivate, what are the conditions for that? And that's different for different people.
Okay, very interesting.
I mean, someone can say things like, have a cold shower once a day and do all this and meditate. And I do all those things and I love it. But
Right.
the thing that actually facilitates that deep transformation is when I connect with a Kirat that is a year from now, who's like, oh, I overcame that. And I'm like, okay, tell me how you did it.
I'll be talking to my friends and they'll be having concerns and I'll say something very similar. I'm like, first of all, you need to understand 5 years down the line, this looks like a blip, right? If you understand that, you will have a better balanced frame of mind approaching it. You won't be so lost in the moment. You won't be consumed by your pain in the moment, right? One. Two, and this is usually because I'm consulting or at least speaking to friends that are men mostly, right? I'll speak to a woman once in a while too, but it's usually just men. And I'll tell them something along the lines of, you need a long-term struggle. You need something, a challenge that is just hard enough every day for the next so many days of your life, because that adds a sense of stability to otherwise what might just be a floating existence between days, right?
So do you mean something meaningful?
Anything at all. It does not have to be essentially career, but it just has to translate from the effort that I did yesterday to the effort that I will do tomorrow and then 5 days from now and 3 years from now. Like it just puts into line something you care about so much that it is probably even beyond you. That helps you get up.
It is most likely beyond you.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if I'm depressed and all I care about myself, then it's going to get harder and harder for me to get up every day.
100%.
Right? Like extending your concern beyond yourself at least gives you that strength, which I think is how most people who do not have access to mental health resources, poor people, how they deal with this shit is that they have no option. So that at least keeps them somewhat stable. It's not problem solved, but it's at least
It's expanding your attention beyond the confines of your own mind.
right.
Which we have the choice to do in any moment, but we forget that because it's so strong. The pull to just dwell is so strong, because it's I would hate to not bring this into the conversation, which is it is one of the hardest things to do, to understand that you deserve to be healed. Like, to understand that you don't have to suffer unnecessarily is one of the hardest things to believe. And every part of you will fight against that because every part of you is conditioned otherwise. So that one part of you that knows that that's not the case is the part of you that you have to rest in. But also to take myself out of my own mind. Yes, the salad was so delicious. Thank you.
It seems like you guys have been talking about something so serious.
Kinda is.
I think we're very serious people. I mean, he's playful at heart.
But thank God she said playful at heart. Can I get one more coffee, please?
Yeah. Of
Okay, thank you.
course.
I think that we have to acknowledge just the seduction of suffering.
Yeah, brilliant. I think pain is the most seducing emotion.
It's
It brings in self-sympathy.
It's
It brings in
incredibly alluring.
Right.
Like, there's nothing quite like
just floating in pain.
wallowing in it.
Yeah, right.
Trust me, I've done it. Because it sounds, I mean, it is ultimately counterproductive, but releasing responsibility for yourself provides immediate relief.
The theme of what men and women should do, or do, is extremely complicated, laden. There's many layers to it. La 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 la. And I've almost always sort of resisted the contrast between them being painted out, because I've found it allows bad faith actors to say men are different, women are different, but men are better very quickly, or men are different, women are different, but women are better very quickly, right? But it's almost unignorable that men and women behave differently to adversity, and probably they should too, right? We've had a conversation many years ago about masculine, feminine, so on and so forth. Is there, in your practice, have you found that you are guiding men differently when it comes to pain, suffering, mental health, malaise, whatever, XYZ, and women differently? Or if you're just letting them take the lead, like the way you're saying, have you found that men take their lead differently and women take their lead differently?
From my experience, it's not entirely like gender based. Each individual is so different, but it is energetically based. So, I would ask them, what would balance feel like in this moment? So if someone is familiar with the feminine quality of healing and the mode to go about that, they might be more inclined to be receptive and to contemplate and to feel and to sense their way into movement. And if someone is more inclined to the masculine mode to healing, they might find a way to logically explain what is going on and to rationally make the best decision. What I find is often the most fruitful is both. And so whoever I'm speaking with, if most men that I've worked with tend to be
more masculine?
Yeah, tend to be embedded in their masculine. So they'll operate from logic. I'm not going to let my emotions guide this. And it's like, okay, I understand that you don't want to be overwhelmed by sentiment. The flip side of that, where women I know who happen to be more in their feminine feel like, oh my God, I just feel all this emotion, and I'm laughing because I totally am that person where I'm like, I can't cry anymore. Look, I have no tears left. I need to finally do something about what's going on with this feeling.
Right.
I do feel like most of the time I'm really balanced, but there are very specific areas in my life where it's so hard.
I would guess you're more feminine than masculine.
100%.
Like, I could list down 10 qualities, all feminine, that apply to you.
Like, my emotions will have the last word. No doubt about it, and no regret about it. About it.
I think that's true for me too, though.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm very feminine.
You have a poetic essence about your.
I think part of why I have the feminine side down more confidently than the masculine side maybe is because I was raised primarily by my mother. Like, my dad was almost always working, and so like all my masculine conditioning comes from a second hand watching him do what he did. But all lessons in life were pretty much single-handedly passed down by my mother in so many ways, and so that was never really a problem, and I did not even know that those are things that need to be balanced, until I started seeing people on either side. Like men who just they need to make sense of everything. Everything has to flow from logic. Even if you're feeling bad, just chill the fuck out.
Yeah.
Yes. Just chill the fuck out, right? Like, I've known enough people where I'm like, relax, it's okay. And with enough...
And let yourself feel it.
Right, and there is enough people where I'm like, why are you not doing more?
Yeah.
Why are you not like thinking straight about it?
Yeah.
Why are you letting like your penis or your gut or your whatever guide you in these emotions?
Yeah, totally.
Right.
And that's why it's really important to have that balance, because my my mode of operation dramatically changes like in any time of the day. Like usually in the morning and in the evening it's incredibly like receptive and in my feminine. I want no logic in it. I want to dream, I want to meditate, I want to explore. But then throughout the day I often find myself like, I love New York.
Dude, New York, huh?
He's
Cannot
living his
quiet
best
down.
life. But then sometimes in the middle of the day, I often find myself like needing to be more logical about it. So I might bring language to it. I might speak to someone about it. I might, like my point of contact to know when I need to be practical is calling my parents. I love it. I speak to my parents every single day, both of them, and I FaceTime together when they're like watching a movie at night, and they'll pick up and I'll share what the problem is. And my dad would be like, that's fucking bullshit, forget it. My mom would be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You know, and I'm like, oh, I need both. My dad to be like, get over it, you won't think about it. And my mom to be like, oh my God, like poor you. I need both. I need to be like, thank you and thank you. Because otherwise, I'm just going to fall into the extreme. So,
You know, I think one of the key things that if people can get over is temporary bad sentiment feeling states that people have because of certain actions. Because like, if I ever needed advice on shit, right, especially that has stuff to do with work, stuff to do with the external world, I'll go to my dad. And he'll probably respond in something of a similar fashion. In fact, like, here is the most funny archetypical situation that sort of probably sheds light on the masculine feminine phenomena well. My dad will call me once in 7 days. He'll be like, how are you? Do you have enough money? Have you eaten?
Are you
Is
alive?
everything all right? Yeah, okay, goodbye, right? 45 seconds.
Totally.
And he will insist, your mom misses you. When in fact, he misses me. Everybody knows that.
Totally.
My mom will call me almost every day. She'll speak to me for 45 minutes about random bullshit. She'll be like, oh, my office is having this problem and this person's like this and you should never worry about it. Mom, it's uninvited. No problem. She'll speak to me for 45 minutes, no matter what I'm doing, right? And it'll be like such a... She'll always tell me, relax, don't worry. My dad will be like, are you working hard?
Yeah,
and it's so opposite and so distinct. I'm in fucking love with that idea. And I think that really helped the range of masculine and feminine be explored, especially after I had those concepts down. But I'd go to my dad about whatever concerns I have, and he'll trivialize them. He'll trivialize them in a way that makes so much sense, that bring in so much humility.
And relief.
So much relief. Initially, you're like, you don't get my problem.
Yeah,
but then you're like, no, actually, he gets it better than I get.
Totally. You're like, don't invalidate me. And he's like, no, you won't think about this in a week. And I'm like, okay, you're right.
Yeah, right. I've seen that.
And you need that. Like, it's a reality check.
Right.
And I used to always think I knew, you know when you're like young and you're like, my parents know nothing.
Yeah.
I know so much more than them. I'm the one that's like, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
No.
It's not true, dude.
Absolute
It's not true.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Like the amount of times that I've spoken to my parents and they'll just say one thing. And that's the masculine. It doesn't need to elaborate. It'll say one thing and you're like, ooh, that's
like that
so...
summated everything I wanted.
It's like, it's just one thing and it strikes you just as profoundly as like the 30-minute conversation with my mom.
Right.
They're both equally healing, but that's why you need to know when you need both.
When I was having this situation in December, I'm very open with my parents. I've realized it's one of the greater joys to be able to tell them honestly what is in your heart, because they're probably the closest you'll come to another human.
100%.
Right? So I was telling them, and both of them had different responses. My mom's like, relax. My dad's like, how are you going to figure this shit out then? Like, you know this has to be figured out at some point, right?
What's your plan?
Right, yeah. Take a break, that's all right, but then what? And I'm like, wow, like, fuck. I didn't want to tell you that. And so I see the sense in that. But let me draw you back, right? So we went over step 1, which is acknowledgement. Step 2, don't do things you don't like. Step 3, start leaning in towards things that from some inside core part of you feel like they bring you joy.
That bring you back to baseline, that bring you sources of comfort. I'm not saying move from suffering to flourishing.
Yeah, right.
But you can move from complete despair to I'm existing. Especially after a pandemic, if you're okay, if you're eating, if you're breathing, if you're getting through with some ease, you're killing it.
I think
killing it.
I think it's people when they do not have clarity about how much. You remember how Kite would talk about how much? There is no definitives in his class. There is no right answers in his class ever. And Kite has this very famous talk about how much. Right? It's almost like this bit that he does. It's almost like his stand-up routine. He says, okay, you figured the question out. Left or right, yes or no, right or wrong, good or bad, whatever, you figured that out. But now ask yourself, how much? And start really tending to the question of how exactly much do you want this versus how exactly much do you want that? And that sort of brings this sobriety into your life in general. It brings this sort of clarity you never thought because you never asked yourself the second question. So I think what happens very often with people trying to flourish or thrive is they've never asked themselves how much.
That's so brilliant.
And all they want to do is win, whatever that might mean. Be good, whatever that might mean. Have fun or be successful, whatever that might mean. And they never realize like look at your parents. I'd say they're fairly successful. My parents are fairly successful. People in the world are fairly successful.
Yeah.
It's only to a certain point. They didn't strive to become Elon Musk.
No.
They settled down. They
Yeah.
were like, this is enough for me.
And they're probably a lot more peaceful.
Right. And I think if they hadn't asked themselves at whatever point in their journeys how much, they would have always had this urge for more that would have kept them sort of going.
It's like the hungry ghost that just keeps on taking. It's not a good situation.
Right.
It's just, and actually, it's funny because the way that Buddhism, the way that the Buddhist scriptures describe suffering is not even like how we would understand it in the Western context, but it translates to dissatisfaction. I mean, what the fuck?
Right. Well, that's so brilliant because like they say suffering, which is a very loaded term.
Yeah.
Heavy as fuck.
When you think of suffering, you think of like death of a loved one.
Right,
Like,
or just torture.
Yes, like pure, like the worst things that could happen to you in life.
Have you seen Harry Potter?
I
Are you a
love
nerd?
Harry Potter.
It's
I'm
like
a
the Cruciatus
1000%
curse.
nerd. Yes,
It's like the
exactly.
Cruciatus
Oh my god,
curse.
that's so good.
Why was that, dude?
I'm
I didn't know you were a
happy
Harry
because
Potter
I love
nerd.
you even more.
Dude, I've been doing reruns of Harry Potter because I'm such a nerd. I can repeat dialogues from the back of my head.
Oh, so can
I used to
Do you
annotate.
want a quiz? I'll quiz you right now.
Fuck yeah, girl. That's what we are doing.
Let's
Forget
do it.
this. Can we close the cameras? There is something very important we're about to do here.
Let's set up a quiz. 'Cause
That is a brilliant
no,
idea.
but I'm the same way. Like I can memorize every movie. I mean, I read the books like 12 times.
I would
Each.
take
Like,
the books to theaters when I'd go watch the film.
Prakhar, bring it
Nerd
on.
as fuck, dude.
Okay,
You
like,
will never
we're
win
gonna
this.
do this quiz. I'm excited.
We should go watch the Dumbledore film.
Yeah, I just saw that. I would love to go.
Have you seen it yet?
No.
No, right? Because I think Dumbledore was the coolest character.
Yeah, I
Hands
loved
down.
him. What a humble man. What a powerful man.
What a wise man.
Because a man of few words.
Few words.
And also the symbolism of the phoenix, which always resonates
Brilliant.
with me.
Yes, right. That.
Yeah.
Even like the half moon spectacles.
Oh my god.
Enough light, enough dark.
Seriously.
Right. I think it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my god, that made me really happy. Do you want to order food or you're good?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I think I just still have to tie in like a few more doubts I have about like what we were speaking.
Okay.
So the steps we were going through.
Bring it.
I'm sorry to bring you back there.
No, let's do it.
Right. Now that I've found how I incline myself, how I lean into joy and so on, how do I cement it?
Find practices, rituals to connect you with that. And that's why it's incredibly relative. Like what connects you to that Prakhar? What connects you to that Kirat?
Is this like having the sense of like, oh, like let me just make it more tangible for myself, right? Say I wake up at noon every day. I spend
you?
no, it's a hypothetical. This is already noon. I'm sitting here.
Oh no, but I was also that wasn't judgment all for it, but I was curious. I was like, really?
In India, yes. In India, I'll like stay up to like 5 and I'll wake up at noon, and that's when I'll start my day. It's also because like all my friends are jobless, so we'll just hang out at night, you know.
It's beautiful.
Well, my friends, if you're watching, but say I wake up at noon.
That was unfortunate.
Yeah, well, if I wake up at noon, spend the first 3 hours hanging on Instagram and Twitter, then I go into like my 3 p.m. shower. I don't know what to do next. I fucking spend more time on the internet, hang around, do nothing, la la la. You know, I'm going through like a day that I'm not happy with.
Okay.
Right now, say I slowly start finding out actually having dinner with my family. It brings out some part of me that I'm fond of.
Yes.
There is some joy there.
Yes.
Same with say hanging out with my friends.
Yes.
Maybe when I sit down to write what I
Yes.
write, because I have that
It could
instinct.
be anything.
Yeah, it makes
And
sense.
That's what I'm saying. It could even be, I love the 10 minutes where I go and get my morning coffee. I'm not saying you have to do these like grandiose rituals every single day, like chant for 4 hours and then
Yeah.
just chill.
Yeah,
Like,
relax.
And it's interesting because you'll start to see the shift in emotional sentiment where what might initially be the inclination to find comfort, like wholesome relief, might then begin to change into like deeper sources of joy. So at the beginning of your journey of healing, what you might be capable of is just what will bring me wholesome relief. Not that I'm distracting myself or that I'm repressing my pain, but I'm inviting more ease. You know, maybe I take an afternoon nap. You know,
Like a siesta.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I don't know, I call someone that I love. Maybe I write some poetry. Maybe I read some poetry.
Yeah,
like
right.
maybe I make just a really good, delicious meal and it's like the best 30 minutes of my day.
Right.
Like it can just be these practical ways that I would say, number one, activates your senses.
Right.
Like,
Brings you to life.
because the thing is, one thing that you have to remember through this this formula or anything really, is that the way that you got into the problem is not the way you're going to get out. If you're feeling anxious because you're overthinking is not going to get you out of it.
Dude, that's brilliant.
It's not going to be the thing that's going to get you out of it. So it's funny because I was going through my own experience like a year and a half ago, maybe almost 2 years ago now, a year and a half ago, where so much meditation, so much therapy, and so much psychoanalysis was making me feel awful.
Yeah, it's loading you too much.
And more of it, and I was like, okay, then I better go just see this other therapist. And I'm like, no. And it's funny because my partner at the time was like, no, you need to just watch a movie and have a dinner and go to sleep. And I'm like, wow, I feel so much better.
Right.
Like, it's not more of the thing that's getting me more in my head. It's less of that.
Right.
But that's why it's relative, because for someone it might be, no, you should go see a professional, or you should go, watch a YouTube video or read a book that actually provides you with more of this like psychological insight. But the balance will be different depending on the person.
I agree. I think wonder helps so much and beauty helps so much in that process, as contrasted with utility and as contrasted with like...
Again, it's the feminine and the masculine. I don't have to this one thing that I think can be incredibly detrimental to someone wanting to step into their feminine or wanting to really step out of the mind is this need to be productive.
Yeah.
Especially in the West, but especially our generation.
That's true, dude.
We need to grieve the part of us that has learned that our worth is associated with productivity. It's fucking bullshit.
Well,
it's
yeah.
the biggest bullshit.
Right, I think it's yeah, I agree, dude. Like,
It's
fuck.
painful.
I keep saying, like, if all your life's about build, or make money, or get power, when are you spending all of it? Isn't that the point?
And also, we can take that a step to an even more subtle realm, which is where I love to live. Like, let's echo what is the number one most sustainable thing in life? Nature. How
Right.
does nature work? There's a season to harvest, a season to reap, a season to create, and a season to produce, and a season to receive. Everything is cyclical. That is the number one constant change. That is what's sustainable, the cycles of nature. So this need to be productive 24/7 is just not practical, and it's a thing that will just cause more suffering.
Right.
But the need to constantly receive and dwell and be and just sort of
Wallow.
plan without doing anything is also not productive.
Right.
There's a season for that. Don't get me wrong. You got to feel the feels. You got to rest. You got to contemplate.
Feel the
but then-
feels.
But then you got to do something, okay?
Right,
Like,
I
trust
agree.
me. And only you'll be able to know when that is. And a question that I would offer people when they're trying to figure all of this out is ask yourself, is this liberating? Is this bringing me closer to the desired goal?
That was what you said here was brilliant. So, cementing the state of being at the baseline, or at least near the baseline, would mean consciously setting up your day to move towards things that make you feel better.
Yes.
Right? It's a more conscious form of
Yes,
living there.
Exactly. Living an aligned life doesn't mean that you're gonna feel less pain.
Right.
You know, like you and I were speaking about, sometimes being honest with yourself and speaking your truth is the most painful thing you can do. But ultimately, it will bring about the greatest return on that investment.
Brilliant. Yeah, I agree. There is alignment's a very strong word. Aligning yourself with
It's
your
my
core.
favorite word.
Yeah? These
It's
days
probably-
or forever?
It's probably my favorite word, I think.
It's been-
so funny because I see people who spend a lot of time with me who never say it, and then after 6 months, they're like, alignment. I'm like, damn, I need to
Hey,
stop saying
it's
that
better
word.
than having basically as your favorite word. It's way better than having basically or
Whose
like...
favorite word is that?
Whose favorite word is basically?
Just like-
Most basic people's favorite word is basically.
So funny.
Most people who don't think about what they say. How do you feel when you look back at the Kirat who went through all the pain that she went through to arrive here?
I love her so much.
Right?
Yeah,
Do you
honestly,
forgive her for the mistakes she made?
Oh my God, I get really emotional about it. I have such a strong bond with with all those parts of me, and I've done a lot.
Yeah.
I've done a lot, and it's a journey, but I don't hate her.
No, I love it.
I know, and like I used to. I used to
Yeah.
be in such like, how could you? It's like the palm is just open, and I'm like, I get it. I'm sorry. I love you. I'm here.
Right. I'm so fond of how dumb and silly and stupid and naive and like just hopeful and optimistic and all these things that I was. And
Yeah.
just knowing that whatever mistakes I made up until came from a good place of trying to just do better.
Trying
of
to do
failing.
the best with what I knew
Right.
at that time.
Right. That helps you forgive yourself. That helps you let go of that story.
Like,
right.
if my child makes a mistake, am I going to scream at the child, or am I
Right.
going to say, hey, this
But that's
is
also
actually
conditioning,
what we
no? Like, because we grow up in schools, in society, in playgrounds, and whatever. If you make a mistake, you get a penalty. And eventually what happens
When
is
did
those...
that ever do anything? You know, it just
You
made
would
me-
still not be making
It
mistakes.
just made me way more reckless. Like
Right.
I was that kid that was like, oh yeah, you want to fight? Like,
Let's
that's
go
what-
at it.
That was
Have you
me.
punched someone? Yeah? Was it a girl or a boy?
It was
I
a girl.
would never. For real? Did you punch her straight across the face? Was it a hook or like...
No, I was 15.
That doesn't like excuse anything. Punching a person, Kirat, for real?
We got into this huge fight. It was really bad, but
Did you say bitch before you punched her?
I was so angry. I don't remember what I said, and that's how you know it was bad.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
even. My sister had to pick me up, and she was like, "Get in the car. We're going home."
Wait, your sister's older or younger than you?
Younger, but-
Dude, shit. She has a bad life then. She's taking care of her older sister?
Oh my gosh! But no, but that's why I'm really glad that I was so insanely reckless because when I work with anybody, or even just when I speak to friends, they're like, "Oh, don't judge me," and I'm like, "I will never."
I punched a
You
15-year-old. I don't judge you.
I was like, no, but what's the point? It's like, if I felt like I was being attacked in that moment, that's what I thought the best thing was to do. Was like, okay, like you're coming at me, I'm going to protect myself.
Right.
Obviously now I would never do that, but given the conditions of where I was in, it was so painful internally. Of course.
What
I'm
are the
gonna end up-
conditions under which you'd punch someone? I need to know. I'm a reckless guy myself.
Self-defense. If you come, I'm like, also. I think this is an element of Sikhism that has really inspired me.
Which is just violence.
No, how dare you, Prakhar? I'm very protective of my religion. It's that things aren't inherently good or bad, but
Right.
in the name of self-defense, if you come at me, my sword's
I will
coming
put
out.
my khanjar out.
Exactly,
Yeah.
it's coming out.
Right.
Like, I have no desire to come at you, but if you come at me, I'm going to do what I need to do to protect myself.
For sure.
And if that hurts you in pursuit of that,
Well,
because you're
bad luck.
causing me pain. Exactly. It's like I don't want to cause you pain, but compassion isn't tolerance.
Right.
I can have compassion for you without tolerating your bullshit.
Oh, well, fuck yeah, dude. Hey, you're fiery. I like that. There's a fierceness about that. Compassion isn't tolerance, okay? Fucking take your bullshit somewhere else. I'm not going to talk. Yeah, I like that.
No, but-
I'm fond of that.
There's a very graceful way to execute it.
Right.
But that's how I feel.
Wait,
It's
how do
like-
you punch gracefully? Do you get in stance and then you go,
Honestly,
Man.
but no, we're friends.
right, now?
Yeah, we were friends after.
What about her self-respect?
She actually hit me too.
Oh, fuck, okay.
So that's what I'm saying.
Is
it's
this
like,
in England?
No. This is in
Philly.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah, I don't think well, sure, like, whatever, playground fights. But I've never been in like, let's punch this guy across the face situation. I was very meek in that way. I do not let myself be told anything about my future lest my pursuit is colored.
Never. I don't believe in fortune telling. It hasn't happened yet. But it can shed a lot of light on like natural elements of strength within you.
Yeah, like, even personality tests.
Oh yeah, we spoke about this.
MBTI, I would never
Yeah,
do
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I do not want anything about me. Let it be a mystery. If I'm not a mystery to myself, then it's so boring. Then I know what I'm going to do next. Plus, I think it adds like this predictive preconditioning to like your behavior. If you're like, oh, my strength is X and Y and Z.
And very unconscious. It is very unconscious.
Yeah,
Like,
and I want none of that.
Yeah, if someone says in 6 months this will happen, you might just make it happen.
Right. And our minds are very powerful in the way they shape things in the background. So I agree. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Prakhar.
We
This
should
was
do one
so
more.
fun. I would love to.
Yes, I will set it up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Right? Ash's been sitting there. Ash,
Oh my
you
gosh,
have stamina.
have you been sitting there?
Ash has stamina. Ash has the weirdest shots also because he has shots from like that window. Did you have fun? Do you want to get something to eat? Afterwards? Pakka? Okay, brilliant. Let's go. It's a wrap, boys. It's a wrap.